Good morning, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you're on the lifeboat. Well, good Sunday morning. I hope everyone's having a great weekend. I saw an awesome picture of, a series of great pictures from M. Hunt of he and his little girl. A really funny one where she is sitting on the dog. I mean, literally sitting on the dog, and the dog is just chilled out laying there. But if you look really carefully at the picture, the dog is looking up at the camera, and it's just the funniest look on a dog's face I've ever seen. It's like, yep, I'm getting sat on, no big deal. Yeah, really, really cool pictures. And you know what, M. Hunt, you look at peace. You really do. You look at peace. And I'm about this much jealous, but I pick up my daughter tomorrow, and I'm very, very much looking forward to that. Very much looking forward to that. Tanya D, good to see you. So, been a rough day and a half, maybe two. Been a rough couple of days. I mean, nothing earth-shattering. Just dealing with people, and dealing with some people that just, this is a tough gig. It really is, and when it's good, it's better than almost anything. I mean that. When it is good, it is better than almost anything. Good morning, Scoob. But when it's not good, it's it's like getting the crap kicked out of you. And some of the time when it's not good, it's because there's a frustration level with some of the people that you work with. And sadly, a lot of these people tend to look at you, or the collective you, not necessarily me, but whoever they're getting help from. They tend to look to that person kind of like a guru, or as somebody they should emulate, maybe a role model, right? And I'm here to tell you, there are no gurus. There aren't any. If you're lucky, you can find some people who will point you in the right direction, right? People that will give you an idea of a direction that you can go in, so that you can get on this whole train of self-discovery, because that's really all we're trying to do, right? Everybody here is just trying to figure out who they are, and where is their place in the whole scheme of this. And Squirrel, please give me a break. Cat's on one too. First time ever, Squirrel actually scratched me today. She's a very, very gentle cat, but she went for the jump up onto my shoulders, which she does all the time without warning. And since I didn't know it was coming, I kind of walked away. Oh, goodness, kitty. And she got a hold of the back of my neck with one hand and just sort of held on there, and then decided to try to climb up my back. So I've got a little, a little paw blood on the back of my neck where the cat decided to just latch on. I know she didn't do it intentionally. She's really a sweet cat, although not so much in the morning, as really a lot more fun to deal with at the end of the day. So, yeah, so I'm left with this situation where it reminds me an awful lot of my first wife. My first wife and I lived in Houston, Texas. Don't bite an electric cable. That's not a good idea. We lived in Houston, Texas, and I spent a lot of time showing her pictures of me skiing, videos of me skiing, talking about me skiing, but I was healing up from a really bad injury, which is why I was in Texas in the first place. And we were moving to Salt Lake, right? It's the greatest snow on earth. And she was getting very excited about the whole winter sports thing. She was really looking forward to learning to ski, because she had not skied before. And I think she was also kind of looking forward to seeing me on skis. because it was a pretty big part of my life. I was still really young, and we got to Utah, and I went up the first day and sort of just farted around. The second day I was throwing a couple of backflips. Nothing epic, but enough to show off and not put myself at a whole lot of risk. Backflips, believe it or not, are one of the easiest things you can do on skis because you're always looking at your landing, and that makes things very, very simple with skiing. Like when you twist and you stop looking at what you're landing on, that's when it gets really kind of difficult. So I bring her up with me, and she would like me to teach her to ski. And I have taught, I can't tell you how many people how to ski. I used to teach lessons, but she didn't want me to teach her how to ski. She wanted me to go like this, huh? Okay? And wave a magic wand or say some kind of incantation, and she was just going to instantly be able to ski anywhere and do anything. And I think what added to her frustration was Spanx Calhoun could learn to ski in about 15 seconds because kids are that way, But when you're 18 years old and you're taking up, or I think I was 22, so she was probably 19 or 20. And trying to take up a sport like that at that age is a difficult thing. And while normally when I teach lessons, there is a level of respect between the student and the teacher that is instant. They're going to listen to anything you have to say because you're the instructor. But I wasn't the instructor. I was a husband. And she just hated me from the word go because I couldn't magically make her ski. And this is a phenomenon that happens in this gig too. There are people for whom they would like me to magically make them sober or magically make them happy or any, this is going to take the entire thing down if I'm not careful, or any number of other operations that they would like me to be able to do for them so that they can just have a great life and not have to worry about it. And these are just the frustrations of what it means to be Captain Tommy, right? And some of it's just fantastic. It really is. But some of it is a pinch frustrating. And and finally, then there's also the phenomenon which did not exist, in my opinion. It did not exist in the old days, the 80s, the 90s. But the advent of the internet brought on a phenomenon that I had never seen before, where you literally can love somebody and care for somebody on a Monday, and that person will hate you with venom you have never seen on a Tuesday. And the cause for whatever brings on that hatred, I don't know if that's important or not. I really don't. But it's like throwing a light switch. And I find it absolutely bizarre. I really do. And, the cancel culture, I think, is a spin-off of that. You say a word that they don't like, or you say anything. Now Squirrel's kind of chilled out a little bit. She has to get with the program in the morning. You say something they don't like, or there's so many different things you can do, but anything that offends them, that they find offensive. And as opposed to calling you out and having you make the big public apology like they always used to do, anytime somebody screwed up, now they cancel you. I want you to think about that term. You're canceled. Done. We are going to X you out of all things social media. You're not going to be accepted anywhere. I mean, this is a level of I don't know what you call it, but it's a mindset that trickles its way down into virtually every aspect of life. There are things that we're starting to find normalized that damn well shouldn't be normalized. You know what I'm saying? Things that, honestly, we should not be able to get used to things like someone being canceled because they said a word. A word. I don't care what the word is. I really don't. You know, my mentor and one of my 2 or 3 best friends on the planet is a black man. And if somebody, were to use the N word, I would be offended as hell. But it's a word. It's a word, right? Yeah, they can hurt. Trust and believe. Words can really hurt you. They can. They can leave a lasting mark, and it's a bummer. But the whole concept that we're going to protect speech, except for the speech that is kind of hatey, right? If it's hate speech, we're going to shut that down. You realize that hate speech is the only speech that needs to be protected, right? If I come out and my speech is, boy, M. Hunt is awesome, right? Scoob doesn't get any better than Scoob, a.k.a. Heather Joy is here. Probably the smartest woman on the internet. Horton Pistol, good to see you, Horton. Funny. Nobody has a sense of humor like this cat, and I mean that. I really get a kick out of him. And if I just do that all day long, that doesn't need to be protected, right? Because no one's ever going to want you to stop doing that. No one's ever going to say, hey, you can't say that. The problem with all of this stuff is that there's got to be somebody, right? Or a council or something to say, that's hate speech or that's offensive. And who gets to say that? I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want that job. I wouldn't want that job at all. That would be that would not be a fun gig, in my opinion. It really would not. I'm surprised you can't play the piano, M. Hunt. I think I had already kind of pictured you in my head playing the piano. Surprises me. I just kind of thought that you'd be able to play any instrument, especially the way you picked up the bass as fast as you did. You see him play the bass and he says, yeah, it's really not my instrument. Boy, man, it really looks like your instrument, I really enjoyed watching you play the bass. And it was great seeing you with your daughter. It really was. People, if I sound like I'm riding a bit of a downer, I apologize. I really do. If there's one thing that I can take away from everybody in this game, everybody who has decided that they want to help people, right? And whether that help is with drugs and alcohol or mental illness or anything where, there's sort of this group element and where emotions and the very core of who you are can get damaged, right? People who work in that arena, there is I don't know whether you call it a cliche. There is something that everybody says, and that is that it's not what happens to you in life. It's what you choose to do with what happens to you in life, right? The term trauma gets put into the title of more books than just about anything else you will ever see, especially right now. Trauma is a big buzzword, especially in rehabilitation. Because more than likely, the driving force behind why you want to continue to numb your feelings and why you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, very often that can be traced back to trauma. And what's trauma by definition, right? It's something that injures you. And if you've got head trauma, it's pretty simple to take a look at somebody and go, damn, that guy's got head trauma, right? I'm still sober, but my significant other sees sobriety in increments. Sober till her cousin shows up, and then it's okay. Not. You know what? That's tough, Wharton. It really is, especially when you're. You think you're both pulling for the same goal and you're under the same roof. My first marriage, we were both really, really serious drug addicts. And her drug of choice, although she did everything, but her drug of choice was alcohol. And I went through kind of what you're going through right now. I wish I had advice to give you because it's so difficult. And I feel like I'm way out of my element. When I start talking to people about marriage and things like that, I really feel out of my element because, I remember a counselor saying to my first wife, you just need to divorce this guy and get away from him as fast as you can, and we had a young child, and this woman's just saying, "You got to get rid of him, dump him, get out of here." I wanted to kill her. I literally did. Chewy weather. Welcome to Ensign. Great to have you. You look good in green. You really do. So I tend to shy away from giving out like actual advice. I can tell you that right what I was talking about before I squirreled off, the concept of it's always what we do with what happens to us. It really is. And the proof of this is when real serious tragedies happen, right? When the Twin Towers came down, there was an office, the Cantor office, right? All of these people, basically the entire office was on the floor that got hit, and there were, I think, 3 or 4 people that didn't get to work on time, and that was the only reason that they survived this. And I think one wrote a book, about the experience. One took their own life, and the other seems to be somewhere in the middle. But it's the exact same experience. You have a group of people that see the exact same thing happening to them, and because of how different we are built, they all just take such a different way to deal with the trauma. So the 5% that is going to happen to you, I think that if you can get perspective on the 5% instantly, right? Wharton, what you're going through, that's not small, right? Seriously. That's not the guy in front of me, in the grocery store put 12 items in the 10 items or less aisle. That's not that kind of thing. What you're talking about is heavy. But I think the first thing we always got to do when we start feeling that overwhelming stuff come on. Tommy, the smartest person in the room, knows when they don't have all the answers. Oh, thank you, Orton. And I think that I do know that I don't have all the answers. That I can absolutely promise you on. But the perspective, right? That's the first thing that we need to do anytime we come up against something that is really dragging us down. Yes, survivor guilt is exactly what that was, Schrodinger's squirrel. Exactly. So, where does it fall on that? If the trauma is, you just lost a loved one, then obviously this is a very difficult thing to cope with. The reason that we do the sort of the check to see if this is really a big deal or not is because very often we take things that are not big deals and we turn them into stuff that are. So, the last couple of days sucked, but I could blow them up into way worse, right? I really could. I could make them way worse if I just let this sort of run wild with me. And the biggest trap I could have fallen into was I didn't get to sleep last night, right? It was what was happening was just there a friend that you guys probably wouldn't even remember unless you've been on the boat a million years. Wrote me one of the ugliest letters, and I was tempted to read part of it on the air. I really was tempted because you've just never seen venom like this. It is the ugliest, nastiest thing you've ever seen in your life. And, those kind of things sting, especially if you cared about the person that wrote it. And then I did. So it just kept me from getting to sleep. And so about 3 o'clock this morning, 3:30, I realized that, in a half hour, 45 minutes, I got to be up to do the boat, So my first thought was, because I'm a degenerate recovering addict, because that's really all that I am. I'm no guru. So my first thought was, just call in sick. You don't have to do this. Man, you just don't have to do this. Sleep. Catch a little sleep. No one's gonna be mad at you. The problem is that I'm going through that, right? Because this is how I cope with things like that. If something is bothering me so much that it's keeping me from sleep, then I damn well better get on the boat. And I better talk about it, because if not, I'm going to let this chew on me and chew on me and chew on me, and it's not going to help. Right? It's going to get worse. The reason that I didn't bring the letter on here is because, I guess, twofold. I don't want the, hey, Captain, we feel bad for you show. I can't stand that. I don't do well with that, right? Or don't listen to him, you're a great guy. That's not what I want ever, really. But certainly not in a show where I'm trying to work through things, right? There's danger in that. And then the other aspect was there are people who have been on this boat a really long time, right? There are people who have been on this boat as long as I have. And I don't want them becoming the sleuth, you know what I mean? Let's try to figure out who this was. The reason that they lashed out was because they thought I did. Honestly, for lack of a better way to put it. The last time this individual and I spoke, which was a while ago, right? I basically told this person, I never called him a jerk. I didn't call him names. I didn't do any of that. But I did this is where you're at, right? This is what you're doing. And the substances that you like to party with are killing people. And this is affecting people directly around you who really care. And I sort of went down that road. But that's not how it was taken. Like in this person's mind, I was tearing them down. And, I said, man, go read my letter, right? Everything I said because I really love this person. I really do. And the last thing in the world I want is this person dead. And there's been a few close calls. Like, it's probably what's going to happen. So I guess they stewed for a while on my letter. And then when they came back, it was really ugly. I'll tell you how it started, right? I'll just tell you how it started. They were shocked that they ever let a piece of shit dirtbag convict with 10 years inside who had a black murderer as his messiah ever try to give me any advice. That was the icebreaker. And if I told you that it got way worse from there, really, I mean, that was just the opening salvo. It got considerably uglier. And human nature is that, when somebody really takes you apart, it bums you out. And by the time this letter was over, man, there's nothing in this letter, with the exception of talking crap about Q. There wasn't much in this letter that was wrong. There really wasn't. I've been very open with my past, and this person just highlighted my past and said it in ways that were not quite like I did, right? And how my past affected people in my family and just that kind of stuff. And, I don't care who you are. I don't care how in touch you are with every kind of, I know how to deal with this stuff. I don't care how many books you've read. If the person that wrote that is somebody you cared about, it's going to kick you in the stomach. Like, it literally knocks the air out of you. And, maybe way worse than I would have thought. Maybe, and another thing is this, like, I've had this happen to me, 1,000 times. For God's sake, I'm 52. I've had a lot of people shit on me in my life. But for the first 46 years, nothing bothered me. Nothing. That was my driving force for my addiction. I knew that by using heroin, that no matter what was going on in my life, I was comfortable in my own skin. I would have laughed my way through that letter. I would have laughed, then I would have crumpled it up, I would have thrown it in the trash, and I wouldn't have thought about it again until probably 3 or 4 months later when I ran out of dope. And then it would have really tore me up. But that's, so now I am an individual that is learning how to cope with all these things. Just like everybody else here on the boat. I'm 52 years old. For all intents and purposes, emotionally, I'm 6 or maybe 12. Because, for 46 years, I did nothing to work on my emotions. None. So since quitting, I've got all of that time, and I have been immersing myself in the whole concept of if it's out there and somebody wrote about it, I've read it, or I'm in the process of reading it. Like I'm vicious with the amount of stuff I read in hopes of making myself better. Will says, I know a few people, including a friend of mine, used my past against me. Sometimes it's sad, but true. Well, and you know what? That was kind of, I'm not going to fire a letter back at this person. You know, the first thought is always, you know what? I'm articulate as hell. Wait till you see the letter I can write. And then I realized that I honestly don't hate this person. And I don't think I can pour that kind of hate out. I just don't. And I don't think it's going to make me a better person. And I don't think it's going to help the situation in any way, shape, or form. So the next step is, just sort of trying to, to cope with it. And I started taking it apart, and I was like, well, he didn't say it very nicely, but I'm a convict. There's no getting around that. I'm a bank robber. I went away for 10 years. I went away for 10 years at a time when my daughter really could have used me. And it broke my dad's heart, and it probably pushed him to the grave a little sooner than it should have. Those were all true things. They're a hell of a lot easier to say than they are to read. And you know what? Every dirtbag troll has taken shots at me with these things, but I don't care about those people. They never meant anything to me. I know that they're just trolling to try to come up with something to bum me out. And it doesn't, because they're not even entities as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? They're nothing. But this individual I care about quite a bit. And, that made it tough. And I'm not doing this. I'm doing this because I don't know any other way. I mean, I swear to God, I know I'm going to be better when I get off of the boat. But I don't know any other way. This, to me, is this is how I get through things. And it works. It really is. This is something that works all the time. Every time I come up against something that is really, really difficult, wow. I've not seen seen a one sober day from age 11 until I went on my first date with my wife. It was divine. I can't imagine, 11 is just, wow, it's so young. It really is. It's so young. And again, all of your EQ, your emotional quotient, and how you deal with things and all of that, that gets, the growth gets retarded bad. Like there's no advancement. It's actually going in the opposite direction. And all of us did it. Some people did it at 25. Some people did it at 13. Some people did it at 11. But it does stop you in your tracks in terms of emotional development. So this is why we all end up leaning on one another and trying to figure out how to get through this world. Because we didn't just eliminate the chemical that we use to get through this world. In reward for doing that, we got all of these emotions that we've never had before, and no handbook. You're right? No handbook. And make no mistake, people, no guru. No guru. For real, they don't exist. They straight up do not exist. And I wish they did. I really do wish they did. Let's see something here. I don't know why I'm squinting. I can blow this stuff up. Some people will do anything to hurt you, addict or not. They just want to feel better about themselves. Trying to understand and relate, help is one thing. Just attacking are two different things. Hummingbird, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And here's the thing. While I'm working through this, I absolutely know that. You know what I mean? Like when I started to write a letter back, the first thing that I said was, this had nothing to do with me. This had nothing to do with me. This is low-hanging fruit. If you want to pick on Tommy Scoville, right? This is the stuff that I've come here and talked about 7,000 times. This is low-hanging fruit. The whole world knows my past. And this is one of the reasons that I beat owning it to death. Again, I'm not writing back to this person. But if I did, my response would be, everything you wrote me is true. Sadly, everything I wrote you is true also. And one of us is aware of it. Yeah. Self-awareness is huge. It's absolutely huge. And sadly, drug addiction steals that from you. I mean, you might be self-aware for an hour and 45 minutes, a couple of times a week when you run out of dope. And all of those emotions start crashing in on top of you and you realize who you are, where you are, and what you are. And that usually will make you want to get higher. Good morning from another up all night person. Thank you, M. Hunt. You know what? Anytime I get a well said from Mr. Hunt, it always makes me happy. Really does. Makes me happy. So, and yeah, I didn't come here to piss and moan. I really didn't. I was going to come here and briefly discuss trauma because it is just such a buzzword. And I hope, Tommy, I'm not going to. I'm not. I promise you I'm not. I promise you I'm not. In fact, I'm about 90% sure that another email came in, but I'm not even opening it. I see no reason to read more of it. I really don't. I set my grandmother up when I was out of dope. I watched my best friend rob her and acted as if I was being robbed too. I was in on it the whole time. Well, if we're keeping score, I don't know that you're the lowest. And the beautiful thing about recovery is that I'm not going to say we get a free pass, because we don't. But we're also not stupid. And we know damn well that no one in their right mind sets up their grandmother to get robbed and sits and watches it. No one in their right mind would do that, right? No one in their right mind did. When you're that under the influence of something that you need to not get sick, that's the drug writing that check, brother. I mean, you may get screwed into cashing it, but that's the drug writing that check. And then we end up, signing those checks. I went to prison for really stupid things I did when I let heroin have the wheel. I was not driving, I assure you. For the last probably 20 years that I was on this planet, I was not driving. I wasn't even near the cockpit. And I was happy to hand the keys over to dope. Because honestly, I had become such a cripple that I felt like it would at least get me through this life. Because I sure as hell couldn't get through it on my own. So, that drug became my best friend. It became my best friend. It became my lover. It became my confidant. It became everything. My all in all was that drug. 7 days, tomorrow, 1 year, no alcohol. Good for you, Paul Sargent. Man, that's awesome. Hummingbird 8700 says, Madman, you didn't kill her. Taking money is one thing. Murder is quite another. Yeah. And I know people that went down that road. And I know damn well that if it weren't for, right, but for, I think is what they say in legal terms, right? But for the chemical in that person's body, it never would have happened. Now, you don't get a free pass. You can never be found not guilty by reason of insanity because you were on the needle. It doesn't work that way. Right? It's been tried. Boy, has it been tried. But it doesn't work that way. You do not get a get out of jail free card. You have to own it. You do. You have to own it. And one of the reasons that, coming to grips with all of this is important, and one of the reasons that I bang that drum as loud as I do and as often as I do, let's just say that hypothetically I didn't do this. Like I come on and I give advice and I talk about different, different kinds of recovery and, some assignments. I recommend journaling and I do all the same stuff. I just don't talk about my past, like at all, right? And then I get a letter like the one that I got. And I've got the shame of, somebody found out, right? He found out. Now the whole world's going to find out. And man, you're going to get guilt and you're going to deal with all of these horrendous emotions. What, 6 months in? A year in? A year and a half in? Man, I'll just saw the same with you. I'll knock that out instantly. And I will continue to bring it up. People tell me all the time, you don't have to keep talking about it. Not for you, I don't. Right? I don't think anybody on the boat gives a crap if I talk about it anymore. They know my past. I do that for me. I do that for me. I have absolutely no desire to lose any kind of cognitive, I don't want to forget what happens when I let dope take the wheel. So I'm probably going to just continue doing what I'm doing. Tommy, did you ever try booty bumping? That's crazy, man. People sticking it in their bung to get high. Yeah. They say the liver can't filter it that way. In North Carolina, that's a big thing. I've never. You know what? That was something that really became prevalent after I got sober. But so there were people in prison doing it. There was some science behind it and a lot of mucous membranes. And because, it really does, it slows down massively what the liver can do. And the longer that stuff is going around and around and around and around without getting filtered out, the more wasted you're going to be. Right? That's the theory. Anyway, that's the theory. But real bummer. But I would not, but I've done every other stupid thing. You know what I mean? Like, palm of your hand. Can't find the vein. There's not one left anywhere on the body. And you're so sick. And that if you just take it and stick it in the fat, in 10 minutes, you'll be all right. But instead, you'll take 30 minutes, 40 minutes to try to find the vein. Stupid, right? No common sense, no nothing. And I'm sticking a needle into the palm of my hand, aiming for little blue spots. Yeah. I mean, what the things that we do, to get high. I've told the story on the boat before, but I have been sober 7 years and 7 or 8 months. My sobriety date is in June. So it'll be 8 years this June. Oh yeah, I don't think I'd want to see anybody doing 4 bags. I had a very difficult time seeing people getting high in prison. Even when I was in like the first 2.5 years of my sentence, I was in there getting high every day. But I didn't like being around other people that did, because most of them, a lot of them picked up the habit in prison. They never had a street habit. So it turns out to be one of those things where, a tenth of a bag will knock them out. Like literally, we had people overdosing all the time, everywhere. What? Hummingbird, awesome comment. Agreed, I'm over 10 years now. I get it. What's going on now is more like Russian roulette, daring death. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Well, here's the deal, Diary of a Madman. There are 2 schools of thought on relapse. If you get up and you stop instantly, this is how I look at it. And again, I ain't no guru, but this is how I look at it. In the last 7 years, you used what, twice, 3 times? Does that negate all of the days that you didn't? Because that's usually the way they treat it, right? You got to start at 0. You wasted all that sober time. No, you didn't. Right? You weren't getting high for 7 years. Number one, it ought to make it real freaking obvious that you can do it again. Right? And in that 7 years, multiply 7 times 365, throw in one extra day for the leap year, right? And those are the number of days that you were sober. And you used 3 days? I think you did a pretty good job. Would it have been a hell of a lot better if you didn't use those 3 days? You betcha, right? You betcha. That would have been great. But if you dust yourself off and you get back up, there are good relapses and there are bad relapses. And there are friggin' awesome relapses. If this scares the crap out of you enough, if this really hammers home exactly how important the 7 years were to you versus the 3 days, then this will be an exceptional relapse. The only relapses that are awful are the ones we don't learn from. That's just, really, really awful. Schrodinger's squirrel nailed it. Except instead of one bullet in the chamber, there's one empty chamber. And he's right. Yeah, it's weird how everyone and everything can become dangerous as hell in jail. And if they can't, they better learn how quickly. Yep. Yeah, I watched people dropping like flies, and I did a whole show on it. But that synthetic cannabinoid stuff that the beast from the east is sending over here in ungodly amounts, the K2, or some people call it spice. It has a lot of names. K2, I think, is in the prison system. That was the nickname for all of it. It all fell under the umbrella of K2. And their response was to weld cages in the hallway so that when someone was freaking out on the stuff, that you could lock them in those cage. Tommy Bird knows exactly what I'm talking about. Tommy Bird knows exactly what I'm talking about, because when he says, "Oh, people getting stuck," that is exactly what they do. Like the gears inside stopped, and they will get locked up in any single position they are in. Bizarre, you know what I mean? I think I told the story on the boat before, but yeah, Spice. I was in the SHU, segregated housing unit, and somebody had sent me over. He said, "Hey, can you move a little K2?" And I said, "Yeah, you know what? I probably could." I was sober, but I don't know that I was a good person or even close yet. I don't know that I'm a good person now, but he said, "I'm going to send you over a pile of it, and I don't need a whole lot of money back." I said, "All right, great." This dude sent over like legal paper, the biggest piece of paper you've ever seen in your life. And they cut these things into eyelashes. They're so small, the amount of paper. And I sent back a letter and just said, "Oh, I don't think we're on the same page, man." I was thinking that, you might have had like a business card. I'm like, "What do you want for that?" And he's like, $9,000. I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I'm sending this back. I haven't touched it." You know what I mean? But nah, he goes, "Nah, tear off a piece the size of a business card." He's like, "Make a little money for yourself. I don't care." So I get a new cellmate, and that business card is sitting on the desk, and he goes over like he's going to toss the thing out. And I went, "Hey, don't do that." I'm like, that's got K2 on it, But I'd prefer you don't throw that out. Well, this dude, "Yeah, can I get a hit of that?" I said, "Yeah, knock yourself out. I don't care." So he gets the toilet paper roll, and then he takes his batteries out, and he's got a little piece of tin foil, and it goes through this entire ritual so that he can start a fire with with toilet paper and everything else. And then he hits this stuff, and the door that you go in and out of in the segregated housing unit has what they call a chuck hole or a bean hole. It's a hole in the wall, right? And it's there for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're going to feed you through it. And number two, since you're always handcuffed, you stick your hands through it backwards, and that's how they take the cuffs off. Because you go into the cell handcuffed, you come out of the cell handcuffed. Okay, so this guy, right, my cellmate, who I don't know him from Adam, he's been in there one day, he bends over at the waist, and his head is about 12 inches from the door, and he won't move. I mean, he is locked. And I said to the dude, "Hey, get your ass on the bed." You know what I mean? Just chill out, get on the bed. Doesn't say a word, like somebody just threw the switch, and he just shut down. Couldn't talk. His eyes weren't even moving. And I was like, "Dude, they're gonna walk in 5 minutes, man. they're gonna do their walk. You get me caught, I'm gonna really not have a sense of humor about this, man." I'm like, you need to sit down. Well, he didn't. And this continued and continued. And at the last second, I grabbed a magazine and I slapped it open like this and put it right in front of his face. And I started pointing at a car. It was a road and track. And cops walked right by, which means I had about 45 minutes before they walked again. And maybe 10 or 15 minutes after that, the magazine trick, he stood up, walked over, sat down on the bunk, said, wow, man, this stuff's fire. I said, jeez. He's like, yeah, you want to give me a little more of that or sell me some of that? I'm like, no, there's no chance in hell you're doing any more of that, right? In fact, I'm getting this stuff out of here. I'll flush this down the toilet. It scared the hell out of me. But that was their response to it, was not trying to figure out exactly how they could keep it out of the system. Their response was, we'll just weld some cages into the hallway, and when people have a it was, I think, Hummingbird, I was fairly impressed with it. I tell that story often, or used to inside. Out here, I don't tell a lot of prison stories unless I'm talking to the boat. But I watched some scary stuff happen with that stuff. Scary. I had a neighbor that he would drink red Kool-Aid, right? And he'd go through a couple of gallons of it a day. I'm not exaggerating. Like he just lived on this stuff. And he got some K2 at about 9 o'clock at night. And we locked down at 9 o'clock at night. So he got it and went into his cell and apparently smoked it. And he was in the vent, meaning I could communicate with him through the vent. I could talk because he's straight directly below me. And red dye toxic. I'm glad you said that because this is going to come back. So what ends up happening is he gets up and hits the panic button, right? And the cop comes to the door and goes, What's going on? What do you need? Why'd you hit that? And he says, I got vomit in my blood. And he just keeps repeating that phrase over and over again. I got vomit in my blood. And the cop's like, what are you talking about? And so the cop, said to the cellmate, was he smoking that bug spray stuff? And the guy must have given him the nod because they went and got a wheelchair for him. And they basically duct taped him to the wheelchair. And then they pushed him out of the room. But he took the hit and it instantly made him throw up. And he saw the red Kool-Aid in the toilet and just naturally assumed that he was bleeding and went into straight panic mode. We never saw him again. Like, it was such a freak out that he got shipped off of the yard. But again, just one more of those synthetic, and it's funny because they call it a synthetic cannabinoid. I assure you that nothing in there resembles cannabis or any cannabinoid in any way at all. It is way closer to PCP than it is any of that other stuff. And I think there are still a couple of states where you can buy this crap, over the counter. It's actually frightening, the drugs that you can buy over the counter in this country. It's absolutely frightening. Diary of a Madman says, I do 5 devotionals a day. I spend 3 hours a day praying and meditating. That's awesome. It really is. If you're doing 3 hours a day praying and meditating, I cannot imagine that you're going to have a tough time. 3 hours spent that way, in my experience, there's nothing you can't overcome in 3 hours of meditation and prayer. There's just nothing that touches that. That's impressive. It really is. That's impressive. Paul Sargent says, diary, wow. I'm just trying to read my Bible. I spend what I consider a pretty decent amount of time in prayer and meditation, but I'm not in the ballpark. No. I'm usually really happy if I can pull 15 minutes. I can meditate 15 minutes. As far as I'm concerned, I hit it out of the park. There's just no chance that I could do 3 hours. Definitely no chance at all I could do 3 hours. But that's great that you can. I would take advantage of that. For some reason, jail stories crack me up. You know what? there was a last night on the internet. They were showing some stuff from Washoe County, right? Apparently, they've begun to film in jail in Washoe County. Well, I live in Washoe County, and I've been to that jail, and I was watching it, and a friend said to me, "How could you possibly watch? After doing 10 years on and off, right? Because I didn't do 10 all at once. I was on the installment plan, but it was a grand total of 10 years." He's like, "After doing 10 years, I don't understand how you can watch that." And everybody I know that has been in tends to watch that. I don't know if it's one. You've been to that jail too? You've been to Washoe County? John Doe, are you from Northern Nevada? Or did you just partying in Northern Nevada? Come on vacation, leave on probation? As a worker, yep. It was always funny to me that that jail is on 911 is the address. Their address is 911. That always used to crack me up. Christina Randall's channel, she shares her prison stories. I have watched her before. I have absolutely watched her before. And you know what? When the boat first got rolling, there were a lot of people who reached out and said, "Boy, you know what? We'd love to have you come on and talk about prison stuff." And maybe I should have done it. You know what I mean? Maybe I should have done it because it just would have been good exposure. My fear was that this channel could end up turning into a prison thing, and I have no desire whatsoever to turn this into a I'll tell prison stories. That would be a little bit too close to home. You know what I mean? Like I'm not screwed up talking about it. I'm really not. It's part of the past. But I don't think I would want to talk about it for hours on end and answer questions on it. And I don't think I would want it to be my defining characteristic. And if that was the kind of show I did, I think that people probably would view me that way. That's my opinion anyway. So I'm glad I didn't. This boat doesn't roll. It's only smooth sailing. I like it. I really do. I like it. So I appreciate you guys letting me come on here and talk about myself. I really try not to do that too often, but if I'm got something I can't work through, and and then I've reached out to the 5, and it just seems like I'm not getting traction moving forward. It's not that they weren't great and didn't give me good advice, but I don't know. It seems to work a whole lot better here than it does any other place. Have a blessed day, all. My daughter and I are going to a fancy pizzeria for lunch, gelato, breadsticks, etc. Love you all so much. M. Hunt, have a ball, man. Have a good time. Keep taking pictures because those are awesome, man. I'm telling you, the picture of his daughter sitting on the dog, just chilling, and the dog does not care at all. All you see is the eyes. He's looking up at the camera like there's a kid on my back again. Really, really funny. Check out Off the Crib Ministries. Never heard of it, but I will do that. I will absolutely do that. Okay, peeps. So tomorrow is Monday. Don't say I don't help you. You probably had no idea. Tomorrow is Monday. So my daughter will be coming in, and I'm going to be picking her up, I think, at about 5:45. So, Dennis, good to see you. So I'm probably not going to pull off tomorrow night's video. I will do that, M. Hunt. Thank you. Warden, that's a really nice thing to say, man. Thank you for being here. You guys help me more than I help you, and that's the truth. That's the truth. Oh, and if you're watching this and you can't see the live chat, he said, "Thank you for helping me get my day started with reason." I really like that. So, tomorrow night's show, I'm either going to have to do it early, which is a possibility, or do it late, which is also a possibility. And the other option is I could reach out to AKA Heather Joy, and but just know that there's probably going to be an announcement tomorrow. I'll put it up in the group chat over on YouTube, and I'll put it in the community tab here on the big red button. And now, people, I'm off to church. Well, I'm going to shower, eat a bagel, and then I'm off to church. You know what, Tommy? I'm going to have a great time with my daughter. I really am. I'm thinking of doing an interview with her. I would probably keep her just off camera so that, the freaks, and the freaks, right? So I would probably keep her just off camera, but I think it might be interesting to allow her to, let's hear her side of it. I probably would be better having hear it that way. Carpe diem, shipmates. I like it. SQ. You like how we couldn't call you SS, bro. It just wouldn't work. All right, I will be back tonight at 5 o'clock. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody. This is a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody, or good day, everybody. We love you. Bye-bye.